clutch win.
Thank you very much, guys. What a game from Fnatic. They're really returning it on. I want to go back to picks and bans. We've got so much to talk about for this segment. But during picks and bans, we noticed that the Orianna was secured. We've seen the Renekton going through once again. And the one thing that I want to highlight that you've got to remember, right, is now after how Fnatic won the game, how is Royal going to adjust in the next game? Are they going to ban anything else? But let's talk about this game first. Freak, what were your thoughts?
So the first pick, Orianna, I thought was an incredibly good choice. Peke got beat in lane multiple times by Orianna, getting outplayed. So he's like, all right, I'll take the safe laner, I'll farm it out. And they stopped that. And then immediately afterwards, Fnatic grabs the two champions that were working so well for them the previous game in Aatrox and Zac. And suddenly, right, Royals banned these same champions every single time. Lissandra, Cassidy, and Shen. Lissandra, Cassidy, and Shen. Lissandra, Cassidy, and Shen. And here's Fnatic saying, well, how about that Aatrox and Zac, though? Because we're doing pretty well with these guys. We're wrecking Uzi in the back line and not letting him carry team fights anymore because they're diving in, they're refusing to go down. And Fnatic are building themselves a competition that's actually working for them.
Yeah, and I just want to point out in Sword versus SKT, so far, in these last 8 games, Orianna is 6-0. She's undefeated. It's unreal, actually. I think it's because she's really versatile. Not only in team fights, but in laning phase, she can always safely farm, and she's actually really lane dominant. I haven't actually seen Orianna lose lane in the last 8 games.
Talk to me a little bit about the level 1. For the second time in this series, we've seen both teams clashing together, this time at the bottom tri-bush. Absolutely everything thrown in, but again, both teams getting out without anyone dying.
Well, that aggressive play from Royal again was an attempt to set up the jungle follow in case they had the 2v1. And we can tell because before the 2v2 showed in top lane for Fnatic, Royal went in and had godlike share XP with Lucky on the jungle. Now, this did set him up for a level advantage in lane, but it set Lucky at a pretty distinct disadvantage. And so Cyanide with the level advantage made more of that in the early game, and that was really a big catalyst that helped snowball these lanes because Lucky's jungle pathing was also not so great, and then we saw consistently Cyanide be at 1 to 2 levels ahead in the early game.
Talk to me about Lucky now, because I know we were discussing it backstage, and you were talking about Lucky as a jungler, his routing, his pathing. I believe he's running at least in all 3 games thus far, so what were your thoughts, Grappo?
Yeah, he seems to be very team-oriented, as in he's willing to sacrifice some of his experience for his team. One game, as Bonnie pointed out, we saw it work really well. They got back into 2v2, cleared the waves together, really good synergy. But now he shared his XP, got behind in levels, tried to gank, but a lot of respect coming out from Fnatic's bot lane, because we were constantly hammering how Uzi's out farming Pusu, but what you don't see is that Pusu is constantly standing away from every corner and edge of a brush, because he's afraid that Lucky's there. And for a good portion of the time in the first game, Lucky was there. He stood there. Pusu denied himself 5 creeps, but he, at the same time, denied Lucky an entire minute of wasting time. They kept playing really safely, and then they turned it on in those team fights, in those guaranteed skirmishes, where Fnatic actually has all the control and all the vision again.
And on top of Lucky being a really team-oriented, selfless player, Tabe is the most selfless player I've ever seen. In this 33-minute game, he ended the game with boots. He didn't sell his items. He only had boots as his items because his 4,000 gold generated throughout the game, he only bought consumables. He only thought in the short term, I need to buy pink wards to get my team back in the game. I'm not going to buy selfish items like a Sightstone or a Ruby Crystal or something.
Well, Sightstone wouldn't be selfless. He just never got there.
I think he actually just fell really far behind.
Before we get to the replay, talk to me a little bit about this. A 30-minute game as a support Lulu, no GP10, no Sightstone, no HP, and what was it, 4,000 gold in those wards?
He ended the game on 4,350 gold, roughly, which means, 350 gold for boots, all the rest on wards. Basically, at one point, if that's happening to you, you should tell your team, hey guys, I really need to get to my Sightstone so I can keep pumping out free wards, and then the team needs to take over in warding. He just said, no, he probably maybe not even mentioned it. He said, I can carry my team through this, I'll keep buying wards, we'll swing back the advantage. But Fnatic kept dancing around all objectives really well. They didn't give them a single kill up until 13-1.
Well, let's pull up this replay on your screen. It is around about 16 minutes on the clock, and we've touched on some of these key elements about how Fnatic were able to almost bait Royal into a lot of these very early kills. Crepo, talk us through this replay.
So what happened before this replay was actually a dragon fight, or dragon play rather, where both teams danced around a dragon, and Lucky again smiting it away, I believe. Fnatic actually chased their loss a little bit too far in trying to contest that Drake, and we actually thought this is a shot for Royal to get back into the game. But now, this is what Fnatic does so beautiful. They give them the push. If we roll the crypt right now, Pusu's baiting Gragas, flashes away beautifully, dodges or jukes the ulti. Peke flashes over the wall, comes in the back, Soaz and Yellowstar coming at the same time. Suddenly, from a free push session coming from Royal, they think, hey, we get this tower for free. No, Fnatic surrounds you all of a sudden from all angles right after they got pushed out and zoned out. So that's Fnatic really being in sync again, not afraid of making a play when they're on such short cooldowns, or such short HP rather.
Well, fantastic turnaround here from Fnatic in the third game. They are still 1-2 down, and they have to win both of the following games if they want to pick up the series win here. The one thing that I do want to highlight that I think is going to be incredibly crucial in this very next series is how important this picks and ban phase is. Knowing that Lissandra, Shen, and Kassadin have been the 3 bans from Royal all 3 times. If either of those slip through, do you think Fnatic will grab them and run it with the likes of that teleport?
Well, I think because Royal's going to be on blue side this time, they'll just simply grab the Orianna themselves. Like, I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the play. The alternative is they can let Shen through and just say, you know what, we think you can beat him 1v1 in the top lane, godlike, because he can play Jax or something. But the highly likely thing to me is the same 3 bans in the first pick Orianna.
I think Fnatic is going to ban Orianna because they're purple side this game, and Orianna is 6-0 in the semifinals so far. I don't think you can ignore that fact.
I think we'll see a Vayne coming out of Uzi, and then they're probably still going to ban Annie and Zed, or maybe let Annie go through, ban the Vayne, and then allow them to play with Leona as a possible counter to Annie, because they're both going head-to-head, but Leona actually gets resistances.
I agree. I think the Annie ban is the first one to fall, and the Orianna will take its place.
Well, we'll have to see how these teams adjust. This series has definitely gotten a whole lot more exciting. We do have to take another very short break. And when we return, Fnatic will try to make it 2 in a row and force that deciding Game 5, while Royal looks to trump the European champs and draw their spot in the World Final. Don't go anywhere, guys. Game 4 of this